One person, one vote. It is the bedrock upon which our democracy is based.
But a NewsChannel 5 investigation has found state lawmakers are often casting more than one vote on important pieces of legislation.
And as investigative reporter Jennifer Krause discovered, this so-called ghost voting is happening in the House chambers probably a lot more often than you think.
I hereby declare the House of Representatives now in session.
Last year, Tennessee lawmakers passed the controversial voter ID law aimed at eliminating voter fraud.
You should be who you say you are when you go vote.
But when it comes to their own votes,
All those in favor of House Bill 2633, vote aye when the bell rings.
we found House members not only vote for themselves, they also vote for others who are not in their seats. And sometimes, believe it or not, they even vote for members who are not even there.
I think this is a fraud on the taxpayers. I think this is a fraud on the people of Tennessee.
Political watchdog and radio talk show host Steve Gill had no idea this was going on. In this one instance here, you can see 4 lawmakers are voting for others.
That's not what they were sent there to do.
But Representative Dale Ford insists it's no big deal.
You don't think this is important?
No. It's neither illegal or immoral. There's nothing wrong with it. It's done all the time.
It's such a common practice in the House, in fact, that many lawmakers have sticks they use to reach each other's voting buttons.
I'm disgusted by it.
And we found they're not just voting for each other.
Take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
When the clerk takes roll, lawmakers scurry around, pushing the buttons of others, so that even those who are not there are marked as present. At one recent session, according to the official record, everyone was there.
Madam Speaker, 99 members present.
But by our count, more than a dozen seats sat empty, including Representative Lois DeBerry's.
No, I wasn't here late.
You didn't get here late?
No, about 5:15.
She was actually 40 minutes late. And when she wasn't there,
We are voting on House Bill 30.
we watched as her seatmate, former House Speaker Jimmy Nafee, voted for her.
She had called me to let me know she was running late.
But get this, days earlier, DeBerry didn't even show up. Yet according to the official House record, not only was she there, but she cast nearly 24 votes. During roll call, Representative Joe Towns first clocked her in, and not long after, Nafee did the same thing. And throughout the morning, we watched as he continued to vote for her again and again.
So how often do you ask him to push the button for you? Oh, not often. Not often. I'm always here.
You're always here.
I'm always here.
And when you're not here?
When I'm not here, I'm always here.
But DeBerry's office confirmed she was not there that day.
This is a big issue.
Yet voting records from that day show she voted to lower the sales tax on food and eliminate the so-called inheritance tax.
And I think people are going to be disgusted to realize that their legislators aren't actually casting the votes. They come back during election time and proudly claim, I passed that bill. I pushed that bill. You didn't even push your own button.
And it's not just Democrats. Another day we watched Republican Dale Ford clock in his seatmate Dennis Roach and then vote for him again and again and again and again. In all, Roach cast a dozen votes that session without ever stepping foot in the chambers. When he finally did show up, an hour and a half late, Ford then cleared his desk and left for the night, leaving Roach to vote for both of them on the final few bills. Afterwards, Representative Roach wouldn't talk about it.
No comment.
No comment. You're going to ask the question. I'm not commenting.
But several days later, we caught up with his voting partner, who had no problem with what they did.
You voted for Representative Roach when he wasn't here.
And I'll do it again. I'll do it again if he has a meeting. He'll call me or I'll call somebody. It don't matter who he calls. We'll do what we can to help each other.
It is not too much to ask that they show up for work and do their jobs.
Gill says lawmakers should focus on voting for their constituents, not each other.
Do you think this is what the voters sent you here to do?
Yes, they sent me here to do. In fact, I don't have to answer to Channel 5. I do answer to my vote. If they have something to tell me, they'll tell me, not you.
Has every member voted?
Now, the legislative rules say all members are supposed to be in their seats at their own desks when they're casting votes. But lawmakers tell me this rule is rarely enforced. The House clerk explained it like this, saying this is a courtesy given to lawmakers so they can get up to take care of legislative business or even go to the bathroom, Rory.
All right, so Jennifer, what has the reaction been overall on Capitol Hill?
Well, Well, there's been a lot of buzz, even some fallout already. After we confronted Lois DeBerry about missing that session, the next morning she went to the clerk's office and asked them to take back the pay she'd received for that day. The House clerk tells me he has already talked now to the leaders of both parties and asked them to remind their members that they should stay in their seats at all times unless there are extenuating circumstances.
Wow. All right. Jennifer Krause with News Channel 5 Investigates. Thanks. We have repeatedly asked to talk with House Speaker Beth Harwell about what we found going on in the House chambers under her watch. Her office has repeatedly turned down our requests, saying she's too busy. All right, the fallout continues from our latest News Channel 5 investigation that found ghost voting on Capitol Hill.
Lawmakers in the House chambers routinely voting for others who are not in their seats, and some House members even voting for fellow lawmakers who were not even there.
I think it's ridiculous. If they can ghost vote, we can ghost vote.
Sounds like the people responsible for making our laws are breaking the laws they want to and saying it's okay when they get called.
This morning, angry callers lit up the phone lines on the Steve Gill Show talking about our investigation and wondering why lawmakers seem to think what they're doing is okay. This ghost voting is such a common practice, we found that many lawmakers have sticks to reach each other's voting buttons. And we found House members not only are voting for each other, they're also clocking them in during roll call, making it appear that those missing lawmakers are in fact present. The News Channel 5 investigation that exposed ghost voting in the House chambers got voters across the state fired up.
Yeah, many have a hard time believing that lawmakers are routinely voting for each other on important issues and even clocking in House members when they're not there.
Tonight, News Channel 5's Jennifer Krause talks with House Speaker Beth Harwell. Hear what the woman in charge during the legislative session has to say about our investigation.
Tennessee now in session.
As Speaker of the House, Beth Harwell calls the shots in the House chambers.
Take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
But we found in the House chambers representatives routinely clocking in others during roll call, making it appear on the official record that the many obviously empty seats were full.
Madam Speaker, 99 members present.
But the Speaker insists she'd never noticed it, even though what was going on was happening right in front of her.
But you're in charge.
I am. Okay, 1 minute.
Were you in charge of the House when this was going on?
I am the Speaker of the House. I enforce the rules.
But the rules say all members casting votes are supposed to be at their own desks at the time of voting.
Vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no.
Yet we found lawmakers regularly voting for others who weren't in their seats. And even House members voting for lawmakers who weren't even there.
You have to understand, I'm an old school teacher, and I'd love to have everybody at their desk every single minute, just like the school teacher does. But again, I'm very proud of this General Assembly, what we were able to do.
But get this, Representative Lois DeBerry was able to miss an entire 4-hour session, and her name still lit up on the voting board nearly 24 times, thanks to her seatmate Jimmy Nafee, who we saw vote for DeBerry again and again. And another day, when Representative Dennis Roach was an hour and a half late, his seatmate Dale Ford voted for Roach 12 times.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's done all the time.
All under Speaker Harwell's watch.
You don't see anything wrong with that?
That's certainly not a practice that I condone. It doesn't violate House rules, but I don't condone it.
So why doesn't this violate the House rules? Because the House Speaker and members decide when they want to follow the rules, and they rarely, we found, do. Which is probably why you now see so many of these sticks.
What's the deal with the sticks, though?
I'm not familiar with the sticks.
They come in all shapes and sizes and seem to make voting for others a lot easier.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Harwell, incredibly, claimed not to know about them.
Representative McDonald.
But just days earlier, and just feet from Harwell, retiring Representative Mike McDonald made a big deal of passing his on.
Because I wanted to present this voting stick to my desk mate.
And you're saying you have not seen the sticks?
I'm not familiar with sticks, no.
Speaker Harwell says she's not responsible for what you see going on here.
Those members ultimately are responsible to whom? Their boss. And who is their boss? The voters of this state.
And she says as Speaker, when the House reconvenes, she doesn't plan to do anything different.
People are upset about this, and they say what lawmakers are doing is wrong. How can you stand there and
I didn't say it was right. As I said at the beginning of this interview, I don't condone the practice. It happened.
Speaker Harwell tells me the House was under the rule or following the voting rules about half of the time last session. but it never happened any of the days we were there, and I have spent hours now watching the archived video of the session and of the hundreds of votes taken. Vicki, I've only seen a handful of votes that were done under the rule.